And we're back with Kate Mahoney, my supplement expert. And of course, I've never heard of a supplement expert before. God knows I would have loved to have met you 10 years ago. That would have been awesome. How in the heck does someone become a supplement expert? What drove you to this?
Oh, wow. Okay. I accidentally became a supplement expert. And I think you and possibly anyone else out there who has found themselves in the position of being a supplement expert might be able to relate to that, because it's not necessarily something that you can cultivate. There isn't a laid out path or road to become a supplement expert. There is no one school or track to become a supplement expert. At least there wasn't for a very long time.
And this isn't something that doctors or veterinarians are taught. It's not like,
oh no,
because remember, we already know that they get no nutrition and diet or lifestyle. So they also don't get taught about supplements. They're just told what to prescribe.
Well, the thing about doctors that's really tricky is I believe that now it is required, at least in the United States, that they receive 1 semester of nutrition in their 8 years of schooling that is required to become an MD, which in my opinion is just disgusting.
But do you know what happens? This is what happens. So I have interviewed countless veterinarians, and I always ask them how many, and it's barely that. And oftentimes if they run over on time or something, guess what gets cut. So there are several veterinarians, both 40 years, went to school 40 years ago, went to school 10 years ago, just got out of school, that have not been taught nutrition.
Yeah, and see, I don't even specialize in vets. I was just talking about doctors, like the MDs,
Wow.
Vets, I don't even know. I honestly could not even tell you, because that is not my area of expertise. That is definitely an area that you are much more familiar with.
So because of this, you had to become a supplement expert.
Well, like I said, it happened accidentally. So we're going to go all the way back to the late 80s, when I was just starting puberty, and my body, they didn't really work very well together. And it turned out that even though there was no name for it at the time, I had a rare autoimmune condition. This was back before autoimmunity was even something that was part of the common vernacular. But one of the things that was found by a doctor in Europe after the year 2000, I'm not sure exactly when it was, if it was sometime around 2010 or somewhere in the 2008 to 2012 range, I believe, a European doctor discovered, and I say discovered in quotes because the truth is there were multiple women dealing with this autoimmune condition. It's just that no one had put a name to it. But the rare autoimmune condition is that my body literally has an allergic toxic reaction to my own procreation hormones. So as my hormones cycle up and down, when they cycle up, my inflammation goes up and I get sicker and my symptoms increase. And when they cycle down, my symptoms go down, my inflammation goes down, and I do better, right? So every single month is like a roller coaster for me. And all I have to say is menopause cannot come fast enough. I'm really looking forward to the other side of that curve. Anyway, my chronic health issues led me down the path of trying to figure out what was going on with my body, because the truth is that allopathic medicine did not have any answers for me. Nobody knew or understood what was going on with me. They were all making these guesses. They would prescribe me pharmaceuticals to try, and the pharmaceuticals made me so much worse and so much sicker, to the point where I was actively puking my guts out for 3 days at a stretch, just because.
That's what never makes sense to me. It's like they go, I don't know what we should do, so let's try this, and it's not going to help.
Yeah. Oh, and let us not even let us talk about the doctors who are like, oh, well, this is just all in your head, So let's give you an antidepressant to get you out of your head. And I was like, no, this is not in my head. Fortunately, I was a very strong advocate for myself.
Good.
And whenever people from the medical community would try to gaslight me, I'd be like, time for another practitioner. And this was back when I was in my, late teens, early 20s. At that time, I was already saying, nope, I'm not going to listen to you.
Thank God.
Since allopathic medicine had no answers for me, I found myself exploring what I like to refer to as traditional medicine. It's not alternative medicine. It was literally the original medicine. Hello, traditional Chinese medicine, Ayurvedic medicine, the medicine of the
original
Americas. I know. And it just, I have to say, I'm going to get a little bit opinionated here, but colonization pisses me the F off so much because of how much traditional wisdom and medicine has been completely wiped out due to colonization. I look at the atrocities that have happened throughout Africa and throughout so many places around the world, the South Pacific. I mean, you can't even count the number of places where colonization has wiped out thousands and thousands of years of traditional wisdom and knowledge. The fact that the Native Americans cultivated food forests and found a way to do regenerative, sustainable food throughout this entire country and how they lived. One of my favorite stories.
One of my favorite stories was learning, like in Africa, how hemp seed, just the hemp seed, sustained entire farms and families even into the winter because they would eat the seeds during the winter to sustain them. Like it is. And not only that, even those of us who know and want to learn and those who practice it, they're constantly being shut down, shut up, bullied, threatened, said, you can't make those claims. You can't do that thing. It's really sad. And people don't know better. They just don't know better. So you obviously are trying to fix your own health. And
it led me to the traditional wisdom because that's where I found the majority of the answers. And I figured out I unschooled myself so that I could connect with information such as processed food is not food as it is naturally occurring in nature. It is lacking nutrients. It is literally denatured. And so in order for my body to have the nutritional cofactors that it needed, I needed to get back to eating whole, real foods the way that they are naturally occurring and using traditional preparation methods. Because the amazing thing about food is that the way that it has survived is that it makes its own anti-nutrients as natural pesticides, if you will, to try to keep bugs and predators and other things from destroying it. And because of that, there's so much traditional wisdom in the traditional preparation methods of certain foods to make sure that it is edible. For example, you look at taro root that's in the South Pacific and the Hawaiian Islands, and it's so abundant. But you cannot eat that raw. You have to cook it, and you have to cook it to a certain point, and you have to cook it a very specific way in order to break down the anti-nutrients that make it inedible. And the same thing is true of grains and legumes. So grains and legumes, they have the phytic acid. These make it practically impossible for our bodies to digest the grains and legumes, not to mention the fact that they are anti-nutrients that cause our body to not be able to absorb and utilize the nutrients that these wonderful grains and legumes have. So you have to prepare them very specific ways that usually involve soaking or sprouting or fermentation, such as sourdough. That is literally to break down the anti-nutrients so that our body can digest and utilize the nutrients that are naturally occurring in these wonderful whole foods, right?
Yep.
So along the way, I actually got hired as a health and wellness consultant because of how much I had personally studied food as medicine. And while I was very excited about this position, one of the things that I found when I got into this position was that this health and wellness consultant position, it unfortunately was very supplement forward. And that was not what I had signed up for, but it was the job. So in that position, though, the very cool thing, and this program, it no longer exists, the position no longer exists, but they actually had someone who had a PhD in nutrition who specialized in the effectiveness and bioavailability of supplements. And he created a training program for all of us that were hired by this company as health and wellness consultants. And he taught us all the information about, here's the bioavailable and effective nutrient forms. Here are the non-bioavailable and effective nutrient forms. Here is the proprietary research done by these supplement companies that I have cultivated relationships to show bioavailability and effectiveness, lack of bioavailability and effectiveness. Let's study it. Okay, now that we've studied it, and we studied so many different things. We studied, joint health, cardiovascular health, blood sugar, greens powders, general minerals and B vitamins and fatty acids, so many different topics. We would learn about it, and then he'd be like, okay, now we're going to put what you learned into practice. And he would bring in supplement companies who would give us their marketing spiel. And then after they left, we would all have critical thinking, discerning conversations.
This is so fun.
I know, about whether or not the products that company made were good and why. And so it was like practical application, and I friggin' loved it. And I learned so much. And it was so great because I was working with supplements all the time. So when there were no clients around, I would go around and I would just pick supplements up and I would put into practice what I had learned by looking at and deciphering all these different supplement labels and be like, this is crap, this is crap, this is crap. Oh, this one's actually good. Okay, that's good to know.
Let's celebrate that company, man.
I know. Well, not just that company, because let me tell you, here is the truth about supplements. Just because a company makes one product that is good does not mean that all the products are good. In fact, this is why I always say, and if you've listened to me on other podcast episodes before, you will hear me say, I do not have favorite companies. I have favorite products. Because supplements, when it comes to quality and effectiveness, it's so nuanced and it's so layered that you really have to do your due diligence to even find one product that a company makes usually the right way.
Why do you think they do that? I'm going to guess, because my journey of coming into formulating and end up formulating my own products because I couldn't find anything that was good enough. I was advised over and over and over again, your product's too expensive. If you do it that way, it's going to be too expensive. I'm like, I don't care. I would buy it. I want the best. I don't care. I don't care. I did it my way anyway. So then the second piece of advice was like, okay, well, if you're going to do that and sell a $99 bottle of, hemp extract, why not have one that's $50 so that people can afford it and try it? Otherwise, nobody's going to buy one. And I said, because I learned in school that it needed to be this potency made this way, and I'm not interested in just selling a product to someone that's not going to work. So every time, and I just did this experiment before our podcast, I went on to my Facebook page and asked a question. I said, hey, anybody know of any vitamin and mineral supplements that are free of isolates and synthetics? And so a whole bunch of people put them down. And probably 12 different things. And these are intelligent people. And every single one of them, I found something. And then I found one person who had a perfect one, but that was his only product that was made that way.
Yeah.
It was always like, so I want people to be careful. You're looking at two products and this one, okay, exactly what you said. The company makes a great thing. Oh, but this one's only 50. Let me try this one instead. No, they made a cheap version for exactly that reason. So I'm so glad that you said that, because it's true. You got to look at the product, and not only do you, once you find the product, fortunately, you have to keep up what's going on.
Yes. Oh my gosh.
Especially nowadays.
You are speaking the truth. Okay. You just opened up a huge Pandora's box that I absolutely love. Because the truth is, and you and I were talking about this a little bit in our pre-chat before we hit the record button, when a supplement company changes the way that they do things, they don't have to tell anybody that they've changed how they do things. So what I always tell the health professionals that go through my courses, I say, you need to be aware of when a product stops working. When it stops working, that is when it is time for you to research the company, to look back into them, to find out whether or not anything changed, because most likely something did. Someone somewhere changed something. And what's really scary, and I'm going to talk about something, this is going to affect the longevity of this episode a little bit, but it'll be like a time capsule. So
hey, if this turns into two episodes, that's fine with me.
Okay, so a colleague at the beginning of 2025 reached out to me, January 2025, and said, okay, Kate, I have got to be honest with you. One of the things I'm really concerned about with this new administration, who is talking about all these tariffs that they're thinking about implementing, is that this is going to drastically impact the availability and the cost of supplements. What do you think about that? And I said, you know what? I've got to be honest with you. My critical thinking has been telling me the exact same thing. So here is a key for and you're nodding your head and pointing at yourself and saying, yes, me too.
I've already seen it. I already saw a Chinese company add 2 more ingredients to their inactive ingredients. Mm-hmm. And the only thing that's going on is tariffs. Actually, I got a announcement email from them saying they were going to raise their prices because of the tariff. And I'm not trying to be a bitch by saying that, but I don't source any of my ingredients that can be domestically grown, and I can go visit that farm and walk into that farm. I literally do not contract with a farm without saying that. I can walk in any day of the week and go look at my plants and touch them and smell them and eat them. And if you don't want that, I can't do business with you. Can I get bulk mushroom supplies grown in China for 1 million times cheaper than what I'm doing? I can. So what you're saying, already I've seen ingredients. Well, and I mean, this is not a political statement whatsoever, but why aren't we? Because there are people here who are doing it the right way. We have wild foragers, wild cultivators, people who do know how to grow herbs and plants and mushrooms and adaptogens the way Mother Nature intended, and know how to harvest them and know how to preserve them and make medicine out of them. We should be celebrating those people, just like our regenerative biodynamic farmers who are raising our animals.
We definitely should be. However, there are some problems with that. And I want to touch on that in a minute. But first, I want to give your listeners a really important takeaway that is something that I was talking about with the health professionals that are part of the Supplement Academy. Here's the tell when it comes to supplements now that these tariffs have been enacted. If a company that you are sourcing supplements from is supposedly making super high quality products with super high quality standards, but some of the products are being, raw materials, such as herbs and things like that, are being sourced from outside of the country in order to make the products. If the products, number one, do not go up in price, or number two, other companies stop making similar products, but a company that used to have really high quality standards continues to make a product, that is an indication that something has likely changed, because there are going to be a lot of companies who had strict quality standards, that all of a sudden start changing their quality standards. A really good example of that is during the damdemic. During the damdemic, there were a lot of different supplement companies who continued to make their products. They did not inform their clients or practitioners that they were changing their quality standards. They just started changing their quality standards. And then there were the companies with more ethical integrity that literally said, we're really sorry, this is out of stock right now. And the reason why is because they were maintaining their quality standards and they could not find raw material that met their quality standards. And it made a whole bunch of practitioners angry. And I was like, guys, you got to understand, this is literally a good sign. This is a sign that this company has such ethical integrity that they are saying, no, we are not willing to compromise on these standards. And what was really scary and disturbing to me, there was one company in particular that I'm thinking about while I talk about this. What was so discouraging was that this was a company that originally was gluten-free and GMO-free. And during the damdemic, they took GMO-free off of almost every single label on their product. So they stopped being GMO-free. Despite changing that quality standard, there were still at least 1/4 of their products that were out of stock because they would not budge on the gluten-free standard, which tells you that there were so many supplement companies that were compromising their quality to source what they were putting in their products. And it's really frustrating and disgusting.
So basically, you couldn't find things that could help your health condition because supplements are crap?
It was more like, because of my chronic health condition and the road that I went down to try to find out how to support myself, I ended up getting this job as a health and wellness consultant, which turned out to be more of a supplement consultant, not a health and wellness consultant, really. So during the 5 years that I did that, I learned so much about supplements.
Did anybody ever present to the class that had a good supplement? Okay, good.
Oh, yeah. There were some companies that they would leave and we'd be like, wow, this is amazing. They're doing all the right things the right ways. So this is a takeaway that I often share during podcast episodes, which is one way that you might be able to find a higher quality supplement company is look for supplement companies that specialize. They specialize in one thing, and they're focusing on doing, the reason why they're specializing is because they're trying to do all the right things in the right ways for the right reasons. Because I've got to be honest with you, and I know that you've figured this out from the research that you've been doing on your own. When it comes to even one supplement like cannabis or medicinal mushrooms, there are so many different bases that you need to hit with just that one thing that you're putting all of your resources into making the best product that you can.
I agree with you, but I disagree with you. Just when it comes to CBD, especially, and mushrooms, because both of them are trendy. So I just want to tell this story. And yes. but that point is so true about everything else.
Well, that's why I say you're more likely to find what could be a higher quality product if you do this. But like you're saying, that is not always true, because if you're jumping on a trend, you're going to find a lot of companies who are trying to make money on that trend. So instead, go for the companies that are really basing what they're doing on.
Well, find the expert. For example, I remember adding that.
Yes, find the expert.
Who's the formulator and expert behind this? Because what happens on the trend is that there's giant companies that make bulk supply and supply everybody with a white labeled product. So this is a fun little story I'd love to share with you.
Yes, please.
2018 Farm Bill became legal. I can finally release my formulations. I go to the biggest industry show, Super Zoo, to launch my product. It's 2018. There's about 40 of us at the show. It's a giant show with thousands and thousands of exhibitors. And the 40 of us are either full spectrum products, isolates, broad spectrum. Some people have cookies, some people have hemp. So it's everything, incorporates everything. 2019, 250 CBD companies. Because in 2018, giant company called Folium Biosciences had 150 sales reps at that event and went to every exhibitor and said, you want your own CBD product? You want your own CBD product? And I was there, an official CBD product, full spectrum product with COAs and, certificate from, my cannabis pro, you name it. And I was like, oh my God. Now, I'd say about 200 of them are gone.
Good.
And now it's like 10 of us that are still here. Some of them are throwing isolates in their products to make their COAs look better, to make their marketing seem interesting. And now there's an influx of people putting out isolate products, which I already know have all the research proving that they are dangerous. And that's what always happens. Is we take something that works in nature, we try to take out one compound, and we miss all of the other things that help it make it happen. These are things that I learned in school. Like, here's a piece of information that's going to blow your mind that's why I love talking to you, because if you're the expert of what you're in, and then when I'm the expert of what I'm in. So the main two receptors in the endocannabinoid system, the CB1 and CB2 receptors, CBD doesn't even bind to the receptor unless THC binds to it first. So if you've got a broad spectrum product, you literally have taken away the most important compound that helps everything else do its job. And those are just the cannabinoids, not all the terpenes, flavonoids, and all of the other thousands of compounds that help everything do what it says, what we say it does. So it's hard out there, guys. I know. I have given the advice of so many times of how to choose a hemp or a mushroom product and what to look for and read those inactive ingredients, which, oh my God, can we just talk about these inactive ingredients? They do have an action. So I have no idea why they're called inactive, because they do. And that's what everybody thinks, right? They think, well, they don't do anything. Anything that goes into your body or on your body has to react to and deal with.
You are literally speaking my language right now. Yes, please keep going.
No,
yes.
You go.
No, you.
No, because you've heard me say this a million times. So let me hear you say it.
Well, I 100% agree with what you're saying. Anything that you ingest, your body is breaking down and utilizing, or figuring out that it can't utilize it. And if you can't utilize it, then your body has the burden of needing to get rid of it, right? So elimination is something that requires energy from the body. If we are taking, and you're going to get me going on a rant here.
I'm just going to join right in.
One of the things that really pisses me off is all these supplements that are formulated supposedly with therapeutic doses. Do not even get me started on all the B25 complexes and B50 complexes and B75 complexes that have 25 or 50 or 75 friggin' milligrams of each B vitamin in it. Not only are the majority of the B vitamins used in these piece of crap supplements synthetic isolates, they're not even the active synthetic form of B vitamin, the coenzymated B vitamins. These are water-soluble B vitamins, most of which we need 5 milligrams or less a day, right? So when you are putting that much in the body, first of all, in order for the body to even be able to utilize it, you have to convert it into a usable form, which requires nutritional cofactors and cellular and tissue and organ energy to actually convert it. And then all of the abundant excess, your body then needs to eliminate. So if someone's body is already lacking the cellular energy or the nutritional cofactors, taking something like that is adding burden to an already stressed out and burdened body. And there are so many irresponsible practitioners that are doing quote unquote therapeutic doses, because most health practitioners out there that are recommending or prescribing supplements, dietary supplements to their patients, their training has come from supplement companies, the freaking supplement companies who have a biased agenda to sell, and make their products sound like the coolest thing since ice cream.
Yep.
So they are trying to push these practitioners saying, oh no, your patients and clients are not going to get any benefits unless they're doing a therapeutic dose. I'm sorry, a therapeutic dose is literally what the body needs. No more, no less, what the body needs. That is going to look different for everybody. And that doesn't even get into whether or not it is a, number one, safe form for that individual. Number two, whether or not the raw materials that that nutrient was made with are safe for and compatible with the individual. And number three, whether or not it's even effective. I mean, there's so many different things. Like I said, this is a huge rant. I could go off on this for like days, but that is just, there you go. There's one drop of the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah. Oh my God. We could rant all day. I would love it. I even considered making my podcast just a rant because I feel like I'm on them all the time. But so let me ask you if you know what happens in humans. I have like a guess, but in dogs, one of the things that I realized, so I had a rescue. So I literally, the first thing I asked true holistic veterinarians, they were like, we believe it works. We even believe that you know how it works, but how are you using it? So I was like, all right. They're like, give me case studies. I'm like, great. That's what I'm going to do. So I adopted on my rescue every sick old dog and then applied changed their diet, took them off, weaned them off pharmaceuticals, did everything that I learned, and one case after another bring a dog back to homeostasis.
Mm-hmm.
Just about every old sick dog I adopted had lumps and bumps, tumors. My groom shop on a Friday, between Friday and Sunday, 300 dogs would come through my shop. I was a very, very busy shop. And again, 85% of the dogs were suffering. All the old ones had lumps and bumps and skin issues and allergies and whatever. Like literally, I was like,
it's heartbreaking.
I was like, holy cow. All the things that I thought I was just suffering. No, they're all suffering from.
Yeah.
So I have some amazing holistic veterinarians, like true. And I'm always bringing up, like, I can't figure this out. Or why do they all have these lumps and bumps and whatever? So I learned the lesson of not only does the body have to figure out what to do, but I like to make people imagine that old dog that may have cancer or a disease or something that they're dealing with. They've been given a couple pharmaceuticals, a couple damn supplements that have synthetic isolates in it.
And a whole bunch of inactive ingredients.
And that dog, instead of at night when he's sleeping, his liver is not detoxing and healing him. Instead, it's trying to figure out what the hell to do with all of these things. And
yes.
when it gives up, this is really funny. Carter, my producer, who you didn't get to meet because he's in New York, so it's 3 hours later and he had to go somewhere. But when I go up on stage, I make him act like the liver on stage. And we throw shit at him. And, at first he's putting them in the right place and whatever. And then, we start throwing. It's great. I have it on video. I'll have to show you. But when the liver in an animal or in a dog, which is I only know for dogs for sure, gives up, it goes and stores it in their fatty tissue. Mm-hmm. And that's why these old dogs have these lumps and bumps on them. And the worst thing you could possibly do is cut open that lump or bump and spread however many years of toxic whatever that the liver couldn't figure out and stored it in there. What happens to us? Like what happens? Does that equally happen to us? Like where does it go in us? And I said that to a colleague of mine and she was like, did you hear about Morgan Spurlock dying? The guy that did the Super Size Me. Did you hear about that? He recently passed, and I think it was like some weird cancer that he got. After he did the Super Size Me gig, he tried to bring himself completely back to homeostasis and health, which he was pretty much able to do except for 4 pounds around his waist. And I immediately was like, is that the 4 pounds of the toxic, synthetic, isolate, crap food, whatever? And that's where it gets stored on us? I thought that was very interesting, like going, 4 pounds that he could never get off for the rest of his life. He couldn't get those 4 pounds off.
I can tell that our brains work very similarly because
I want to know. I want to get to the bottom of it. Why isn't everybody getting to the bottom of it?
I know. Like you, I am a questioner. Some people say that as a skeptic. I like to call it a critical thinker. Right? So I question everything. I question, where is this information coming from? How was this study conducted? What is going on here? Why does cancer or lumps or bumps or whatever they are, why are they developing in the body? What is going on to cause the genes of the body to start miscommunicating with itself in these ways? And what's so frustrating to me is that allopathic medicine, I feel like they are not asking these questions. And so much of allopathic medicine has such a reductionist view rather than a holistic view, right? We need to look at the whole body. We need to understand homeostasis throughout the whole body. We need to understand how these different systems and parts of the body work together synergistically to maintain that homeostatic balance at a physiological and biochemical level. And if we lose sight of any of the parts and pieces of that, you're just going to be a symptom chaser.
What are they doing? They're isolating again.
Yes, they're isolating again. So instead of getting to the root cause of why these things are happening, they are chasing symptoms. And that's part of what drives me nuts about the pharmaceutical industry, is that they are symptom chasers. Have a symptom? Take this pharmaceutical, which will give you other symptoms, and then we'll give you other pharmaceuticals for those symptoms. And I'm just like, no.
It's almost like they don't want us to get better.
Yeah, it's almost like we have a sick care system. What? Yes, exactly. And fortunately, there are some people and practitioners around the world who are realizing and willing to speak up and speak out about how and why things are off. For example, I have a couple colleagues who have gone through, I believe it's, I'm forgetting the name of the educational institute, but I do know their designation is...
Is it a vet?
No, it's an oncology nutrition consultant. And they specialize in supporting the nutrition of oncology patients. And they specialize in also, because here's one of the things that they talk about, and I'm just like, yes. They talk about, for example, there is a great structure or system that one practitioner came up with called Terrain 10. And Terrain 10 is based on the understanding that cancer does not just happen. There are these 10 different areas of the terrain of the body and the environment that all combine together, that when not addressed and not functioning optimally is what can lead to cancer. So and that practitioner, I'm just like, yes, because they are looking at and addressing the root cause. They are literally focusing on preventative medicine. Thank you very much. Can we just all go in that direction?
I'm going to send you a video and a piece of it's an amazing review by the British journal. Oh my God, why can't I remember their name? It's a review. It's the British Health Department of all the cannabis research out there. It is beautiful. I explain it and I want to share it with you. You said 10. There's 12 pathways for cancer to do what it does. And Cannabis alone has been proven to interact in 8 of those pathways. So what those pathways are is that cell that's rogue, that starts to turn, goes bad for one reason or another, metabolic issue, it's not getting its oxygen, whatever it is, whatever genetic, something caused it's not genetic, but I mean, it's there. To the next pathway is it turning into a cancer cell, then getting others, forming a tumor, sending out that blood supply, spreading. Cannabis has already been proven to interact with 8 of them in more than one ways in one pathway. So it will downgrade an action, it'll upgrade an action, it'll block an action. And it literally, all it's doing is it trains your cells to become natural killer cells, to go out and find those rogue cells, kill them. The action of THC literally cuts off the blood supply and starves it. Once we kill it, it also, this is another pathway, autophagy. We remove the dead cancer cells. So it literally, all of them, you add medicinal mushrooms and some of these adaptogens.
Like reishi.
You are interacting with all 12 pathways of cancer. And if you're not doing things like feeding it with a bad diet or, bringing in the toxins, you can bring yourself back to homeostasis. I've done it in animals several times. I have brought animals back from just about every diagnosis you could possibly think. And what was crazy is that these animals were also old. So they did not have fully functioning immune systems. I did have to detox, but I just want people to know that it's possible. Same thing with pain. Pain operates and travels through 5 pathways. And that's what happens with these drugs. Pharmaceuticals, you'll hear it, targeted drug. They've only targeted one of those pathways.
Yep.
Not all of them. That's why pain drugs, they're made to interact with just one of those pathways. And that's why it never really completely gets rid of the pain.
Yeah.
When there's this beautiful plant called the cannabis plant that gets rid of inflammation in your entire body and interacts with all 5 of those pathways. And if you want to get rid of more, let's say you want aspirin, take a full spectrum hemp extract. You want extra strength Tylenol, do a full cannabis extract with a little bit more THC. You need a Tylenol with codeine, go get a little bit more THC. You need morphine or fentanyl, go add some of these adaptogens and more THC. I had a dog with osteosarcoma that I never, ever had to turn to a single pharmaceutical to treat her bone pain, her cancer and her bone pain. And not only did I not have to give her a pharmaceutical, 2 years after her diagnosis, where she was supposed to be dead in 4 months because it started in the bone here and spreads, metastasizes to the lungs in 4 months, and she's dead. 2 years later, no radiation, no amputation. The doctor that I took her to did 8 diagnostic tests. The cancer did not move from the wrist. It was nowhere, not even like a speck. Let me look at that x-ray again to see, nothing. She even did a live blood culture where she loves to show pet parents look in, and that's what a cancer cell looks like. That's what a real one looks like, healthy cell looks like, type of thing. So yeah, I love nature. I love the power of nature. I love
nature too.
I love the fact that, pharmaceuticals and a lot of these supplements are derived from a food, plant, or fungi. And there is a way to do it right.
There is.
And my favorite thing that you said that blew my mind, and I'm going to let you say it because it's your quote. What percentage of supplements in the world are actually effective? And the reason is because we're completely unregulated, right?
Well, that's not true. They are regulated.
Oh, ours aren't. Yours are.
Well, pet supplements, unfortunately, don't fall under the DSHEA laws, I don't think.
Oh, I know.
The DSHEA laws only cover humans, which is really frustrating. But in answer to your question, less than 15% of supplements worldwide are worth taking. Less than 15%, and that is worldwide.
And your follow-up to that I loved is that includes doctor and veterinarian supplements.
Yes, that includes practitioner lines. So these supposed professional practitioner-only brands, I'm sorry, they are just, most of them, just like most over-the-counter supplements, are just as shit as the ones that are over the counter. I am so disgusted so often when I look at products and I'm just like, what are they doing?
Or you read the ingredients, you're like, yes, yes, yes. And then you get to the inactive and you're like, why did you do that?
I know. Can we just talk about when you have a powdered supplement, there is no reason for any inactive ingredients. And the only reason why powdered supplements include inactive ingredients is because they are trying to manufacture that product faster and they're not willing to clean the equipment between supplements. Yeah. So powdered supplements do not require excipients or inactive ingredients. If they are in there, literally drop it and walk away.
Well, tell me if I'm right, because I told you I started making a chart of every time I found a product calling themselves holistic, organic, or natural, and then I would find these synthetic isolates or these inactive ingredients that shouldn't go in there. So I started making a list of every time I found one. And then I came to the conclusion, wait a minute, any additive other than a preservative doesn't need to be in there. So any other additive. We don't need the coloring. We don't need the dyes. We don't need the fillers. We don't need the binders. We don't need the flavoring. Nothing else should go in there. Am I right? Because that's the conclusion I came to. We need a safe preservative, which there are plenty. Do you have a list of your favorite safe preservatives?
Well, the truth is the preservative would be dependent on what the supplement is.
I know. I'm realizing I only know from my realm.
So we understand that chemistry, things react with one another. Different compounds will cause reactions.
Oxygen.
So you actually, it screws
everything
the
up.
Oxidization of things. Oh my goodness.
That was the other thing about my mushroom powders. I'd open them up. I lived in Florida, one open, and the capsules would turn to rock. I'd pour the thing. The whole thing would fall out from the humidity and oxidization that was happening. I'm like, got to be a better way.
Humidity is such a... So you have to base the preservative that you are using on whatever is in the supplement, right? So it's completely dependent on that. For example, I know a company who makes fish oil derived fatty acids, and they use rosemary extract as the preservative for their product, along with some naturally derived tocopherol, which is vitamin E. Now, that's great because that works well with fish oil, but that's not going to work for every single thing that you make.
And it often doesn't work. I can't use it because there's so many animals that are sensitive to it. So it wasn't my first choice that I could use. But that's what you got to do. You got to go down that.
Yes, you have to figure out what is going to work for this specific product and for the people or living beings that you are creating that product for, because as you know, making sure that it is species appropriate is something that is so, so important.
You said you liked when companies stay in their lane. Me too. Drives me crazy. How about the companies that make a human product and then also make an animal product? Because that bothers me only in my realm, because when I started, the reason that I make my own formulations and have my own products is because I couldn't find anybody making it right. And when I would go to conferences, it would be a human brand and they'd take their human brand and slap a label on it.
They do.
And it would have too much THC in it because dogs, we've already have proof that they have more receptors, so they're more sensitive to it. It would have flavoring in it. And it would have xylitol in it, which is deadly to dogs.
For a dog?
So I would be standing at conferences screaming at people going, I'd go to the conference's producers if they didn't remove it from their table, because I'm at a human event and they're all selling their cookies and their one bottle of paw print, 250 milligrams or 50 milligrams. And I'm just like, oh my God.
Yeah, well, you are exactly right. So the truth is that most supplement companies who make human products or products for humans, they will literally take their exact same product and put it in a bottle with a label that says that it is for pets. And the reason why they do this, and I know this because I talked to enough people in the industry who were honest with me at the time, they're becoming less honest with time, which is really frustrating because it's like you can't say anything bad about the company that you work for if you work with a supplement company, because literally your job could be in jeopardy.
Right.
I mean, how messed up is that? So in any case, at the time, they said, yeah, so the reason why we do this is because we want to make sure that pet owners know that this product is safe for their pets. And there are some companies, who do their due diligence and hire like a vet or something like that to be able to figure out and make sure that before they put the pet label on it, that it is safe for pets. And it really is a good product. And yes, there are some supplements made for humans that could be safe for pets.
Absolutely.
I'll be completely honest with you. I give my pets supplements. I dose them every other day. I figure out, what does your body need today? And I put just the tiniest little amount, and I make sure that it is safe for my pets, that it is species appropriate. And I only use the ones that their body needs on any given day. And that works great. It's part of the reason why I have a cat that next month is going to be 22 years old.
Congratulations.
That I brought back from the dead because I became his new foster mom when he was 18. Right? So
nice work. Nice.
Yeah, and it's so worth it. He's such a great little soul. I absolutely am bazonkers over this little guy. So the problem is that there are so many companies that, like you are talking about, in the name of profit, are doing what these other companies have done without their due diligence. And they are taking the human product and slapping a pet product on it. For example, I have cats, so I'm very familiar with what is species appropriate for my cats, which means that anything from the allium family, so like garlic and onions and shallots and things like that, not safe for cats, toxic to cats. I cannot count the number of supposed pet supplements that says safe for dogs and cats on it, and you turn it over and it has friggin' garlic. And I'm like, because most owners don't know this. And it pisses me off, Angela.
I know. I have another thing I want to ask you that I know pisses you off.
Okay.
So, of course, I stay in the pet supplement realm, and that's where my expertise lies. But it's really funny because the moment that a company that I was a practitioner for changed some of their ingredients and look, what the hell is that? That's never been in there before. And then we're looking it up. And both me and my partner go to a holistic functional practitioner. And so I don't really take anything but my own supplements. But he does. So I went to his box of supplements to see what she prescribed. And half of them had that shitty ingredient in the inactive. And he chucked them and threw them away and, went to look for it. But one of the things that I found is a couple of the favorite brands that I haven't looked at for a while. And while I'm doing my research on the animal thing, I have seen some of the top brands, the good ones, have been bought by Nestle and by, I don't even remember the name of the other company. And I was like, holy shit, I didn't know that. Let's talk about that, how that must piss you off when you finally do get a good one and then they get bought out. And then what happens? What always seems to happen is, and I notice this too as a trend, they'll keep the founder on or the formulator person on for a while, but then that person slowly but surely disappears. And then slowly but surely something kind of changes. And then slowly but surely people start complaining. But 10 years has gone by and they took out that or just as simple as they're not growing mushrooms on the appropriate substrate, or now they're growing on grain, or now they're buying it from a bulk instead of actually growing it themselves. Like stuff you would never, ever know.
I know. It's so frustrating.
How do you even keep up with the human stuff? Like I can't keep up with the animal stuff. I can't even imagine.
I know. So it goes back to what you and I were talking about before we hit the record button. And I'm so glad that you brought this up, because if I want any of your listeners to have one takeaway from this conversation, I want it to be this. If there is a supplement that you have done your due diligence on, and you have done the research, and you have figured out that this supplement is the shit, and it is awesome, and it works great, and then all of a sudden, eventually, it stops working, that is when it is time to stop taking the supplement and do your due diligence again, because most likely, and I would say about 98% of the time, something has changed and the supplement company knows about it. Now, I have found, and I've got to be honest with you, because I don't like making blanket statements. They just don't feel right to me, because there's always exceptions. And I have found that to be the case. And I'm going to use an example of that really good fish oil supplement company that I brought up earlier. The reason why I am not naming names, people, is because I have made that mistake before, when I literally did a podcast with someone saying, these are my favorite supplement companies.
Oh my God,
and they had been my favorite supplement companies for 10 years.
Wow.
And I made that podcast, guess what? 1 month before the damdemic. And then guess what happened?
They changed.
Over half of them are no longer worth taking since the damdemic, because of the quality changes that happened. So if you're getting frustrated by the fact that I'm not naming names, that is why, because as Angela and I are trying to address, supplement quality can literally change overnight, and you will not even know unless you do your due diligence to do the research and re-research a company or product that you have already verified, right? So if it stops working, stop taking it, re-verify. Do the research again. Do yourself, do your loved ones, and do your pet animal companions a favor and just re-research it.
Sign up for their e-news. I would even put a Google alert on somebody to see if they sell, so that if you don't know something, like a selling of the company is usually a red flag. Tariff situation is a red flag if it's coming from over. I've gotten a email from every single company that I have dealt with that sources things from one of the countries that's now being tariffed. That is immediate. That's the biggest problem here. Will things be more expensive? Sure. But the actual biggest threat is that the ingredients are no longer the same of what you thought they were, because they have to make a change. They have to. They can't afford it. It literally will put businesses out of business.
And can I just say something really quick? That is something that, based on our conversations that we've had thus far, I'm pretty sure that you're coming from the exact same place, but as a supplement expert, I just want to say it and re-amplify the message, which is the number one way to be able to identify a supplement company that is likely higher quality is transparency. Transparency, number one. If you ask for COAs and they're like, oh, sorry, that's proprietary information, literally run the other direction. And the reason why is because COAs are not friggin' proprietary information.
No.
They are literally the way that a supplement company proves that their quality claims are true. And if you are working with a supplement company or sourcing from a supplement company that is actually doing what they claim they are doing, they will practically and gladly and happily throw the information at you to prove that they are meeting their quality standards, because they're so proud of it, because it is so friggin' hard to do in this industry.
And CBD in a full spectrum hemp extract, it is the only way to know what is in that bottle, whether it's an isolate, which a CBD isolate is very dangerous. We already have the proof of what it does, or any of the others. The other thing I want to do is that I'm noticing people using isolate. So when you're reading that COA and you see the little blip or the percentage of all of the cannabinoids that are, or the major ones that are listed, if you see CBD high and then you also see a CBDA high and another one, they have thrown an isolate into there. So it's getting worse that you can't even trust that. So in hemp, you want to make sure that it shows the cannabinoids and that tiny percent of THC so that you know it's a full spectrum. And then also making sure that it doesn't have any of the contaminants, which is so important.
So important. Yes. And that was the other thing that I wanted to speak to. When you actually find a company who provides a third party, not in-house COA from and this is also very important, standardized lab, because there are supposed third-party tests that are not being performed by a standardized lab. I'm thinking of a few water filter companies that they supposedly tested their products, but it was not being performed by a standardized lab, and the testing was just blah.
Which usually means they can call the shots and say what I want you to do.
Exactly. So third-party standardized lab and comprehensive. So you're going to want the COA to have testing for heavy metal contaminants. And you don't just want it to say passed. You want it to actually show the levels that are in there. You also want them to test for microbiologicals. So those are the bacteria that are naturally present. And once again, don't just have it say passed. Show the actual test results. And the last thing is the mycotoxins, right? So the molds and the mildews and things like that. So not just testing for the levels of the nutrients or the active constituents in a product, but literally the contaminants and the pathogens, the mycotoxins, the microbiologicals, and the heavy metals, third-party standardized lab, 100% transparent, comprehensive. Okay, rant done.
Well, and for pets, I want to add solvents. We want those, those very, alcohol, ethanol, butane. I don't know what the other hexane, sorry, that they're using in cannabis. You want none of that in there. And that's what that's going to show you is like, ooh, maybe this isn't the company I want to use, especially if they're not taking it all out and it's showing up in that solvent thing. So for pets, that's really important because they are so much more sensitive.
Yes.
Don't have the same, I don't remember the name of the enzyme that we have to break down alcohol the same way. Yep. And it does get stored in their tissue and it's a lot harder for them to metabolize it and get it out of their body like it is. I honestly have started to say after the research I've done, a dropper full of alcohol is like us doing a shot to an animal. And a cat,
absolutely.
I feel like it's probably 3 shots.
Yeah, it's true.
It's very important. And again, this is a message that I want everyone to walk away with is this all probably sounds overwhelming. But let me tell you what, guys, once you learn, you never forget it. You're going to be the master of, nope, never heard of that before. Don't know how to pronounce that. Nope. Put it back because you'll realize those things do not need to be in there. And it's your responsibility to know what you're putting in yourself and in your pet and your family. And unfortunately, you have to educate yourself. You have to read those labels because these companies, they're not all in it for the right reasons.
Yeah,
only 15% are.
Less than 15% worldwide. So if you are living in a different country, for example, Angela, did you know that over in Australia, they're not required by law to include the inactive ingredients on a supplement label?
Wow.
Yep. And in order to find out the inactive ingredients in a supplement, you have to go to a special website where the supplement company has registered what the inactive ingredients are that they are putting in a product.
Wow.
I know.
Well, I didn't know I belonged to an exclusive club. I feel kind of special now. I also had no idea, it's kind of funny. I started to go, oh, that's why they don't like me. Oh, that's why you want me to shut the hell up.
I know.
And now every time I'm seeing someone like back away, I'm like, let me go look at your products. Oh, look at that. Is that why you're canceling me?
Supplement companies don't like me either. Yep.
They don't like anybody educating people. Right.
We just need to make people think that what she's saying is not valid and pretend like she doesn't exist. And I'm like, but I do. And I'm going to try to empower people.
Right. And you can call me anything you want.
It's only by sharing this information and talking about it that we can be the change that we want to see in the world. Because it's only by empowering ourselves with knowledge that we can say, this is not okay, and demand better. And that's how we make the change that we want to see in the world.
Mic drop. Mic drop.
Yes.
Tell everybody how to find you, follow you. I know that you said that you are working on something for consumers to make it a little easier. But guys, if you are a practitioner, and I know I got lots of practitioners who listen and health coaches that listen, I highly recommend doing this. This is literally what's standing in the way of most pet parents getting their animals back to homeostasis is these crappy synthetic isolates and ingredients that are sneaking in and causing havoc and not allowing the body to do what it needs to do.
Absolutely.
Tell them, Kate, how do they find you and follow you?
You can find me at www.thesupplementacademy.com, or you can also find me on a lot of social media channels. My handle is at Kate Mahoney, NTP. That's KateMahoney, N as in Nancy, T as in Tyrannosaurus, P as in practitioner.
That was awesome. Thank you so much, Kate.
You're very welcome. This was a wonderful conversation, Angela, and thank you so much for having me on. It was super fun.
I agree. Thanks for listening to today's episode. Please make sure to leave us a review wherever you're listening from. This is the best way to help pet parents like you find these episodes and get access to all our content. Follow me on Facebook and Instagram at Your Natural Dog and at AngelaArdolino.com.